Facebook was one of these companies like, we're doing things differently. They said no, these marketers would come to Zuck and say, we're going to pay you $1 million to take over the homepage of Facebook. And there really was no homepage of Facebook. Everybody has their own homepage on Facebook, as opposed to there being one yahoo.com, where if you were launching a movie, you would want to take over that thing so everybody in the world saw your movie on the homepage of yahoo.com. And Zuck would be like, no, we're not doing that. We don't trash our product for advertisers. So that whole thing about advertising isn't cool that you saw in the movie The Social Network, that was real. That was a part of the philosophy of the company, and that's, we're not going to bastardize our product for the sake of commercial interest. And I think he stuck to those guns, and because he did, he's built $1 trillion company. And I remember him talking about, like, we're not competing against Yahoo or MySpace. We're building an app to connect humankind. And that had never been done. And you're like, and I was kind of like, okay, fine. That's, I was like, whatever. But over time I was like, he really means this. This is a vision that is so bold and big. I couldn't get my head around it for a long time, but eventually you're like, oh, this guy's the real deal.
Did you get a chance to meet him?
I've spoken to Zuck on a handful of occasions in my career, but I don't claim to know him.
Yeah, sure. He's an interesting guy to me, because he's one of those people who I feel like I genuinely don't know his motives. It's kind of trendy, I think, in this day and age, now that Facebook is this behemoth and they've swallowed up all these other companies and they have all this data. I think it's kind of trendy in a way to think, oh, he's, just this evil, greedy capitalist guy who just wanted everyone's data and this and this and this. Like, that's one very popular narrative. Whereas I tend to give much more sort of benefit of the doubt. I kind of see someone who, like again, I don't know him. I more see a guy who, started this thing in his like late teens or very early 20s, and it became way, way, way bigger and way more influential and impactful than I imagine even he, with his grand vision, probably imagined. I don't know if he thought that this is going to have like political ramifications across multiple countries, and we're going to be having to make decisions about like absolute matters of free speech and legality and like I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, I do not want that problem. I would not want to run. Right, like when I look at him, I don't look, oh wow, I want to be a billionaire and do that. I'm like, no, I do not want this man's problems.
No, well, I one of the things I think about a lot is our tendency as human beings is to look at other people and go, boy, I sure would like his yacht, or the ability to fly private, or the ability for people to seek me out for my opinion. But you got to take the whole bucket, man. You don't just get part of Mark Zuckerberg or anybody else. And I agree with you. I wouldn't trade my life for his, or anybody else's for that matter. But to your point about, people thinking Zuck is greedy, consider this. He could have sold the company when he was at any stage along the way. But when he was 22, he could have sold the company to, I think it was Yahoo at the time, and made $400 million. $400 million at 22 years old. Think about how much money that is. And think about how many young men or young women would say no to that. Only somebody who's thinking very long term would say, no, I'm trying to build something here, and it's not about money. So he might be motivated by any number of things that people might be suspicious of, but if he's greedy on a level that most of us can't understand, right? He could have taken the easy money any number of times in his 20s, and he had the forethought to not do that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see inside of his brain. I wouldn't be so forward as to tell you what he's thinking, but the guy's a long-term thinker, if nothing else. And the decisions he made, by the way, to structure the company and the board such that he would have control of it for perpetuity, that was very, very savvy. And it's allowed him to make decisions that, I mean, he probably would have been replaced as CEO 10 times if he didn't control it. Even buying Instagram, people were like, you're out of your mind. You're overpaying for this. What are you doing? And in retrospect, it turns out to be one of the greatest investments in the last 25 years.
Absolutely. How long did you work there?
4.5 years.
Okay. And all these years later, I mean, we're now 18 years past when you started working for them, if my math is correct. So what's your current view on Facebook/Meta? I mean, the whole social media landscape has evolved so much since then. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's here to stay in some form or fashion. I don't think AI is a great reminder that whatever technology is dominant in one phase is threatened by innovation in the next. And I think, ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude and all these things are true threats to, for example, Google's business. So we should never sit there and say, oh, this company is dominant, it can never be taken down. Yeah, it can. But I think the way we're connected through Facebook, and whether it's going to remain Facebook or whether we'll move to Instagram or to whatever, or WhatsApp or whatever the next thing is, social media is here to stay. And that has a lot of implications. You mentioned the political one. Well, that's pretty important to understand the concept of echo chambers and the way our brains work, to not, that we seek out confirmation, that we have confirmation bias, which means we're going to seek out information that confirms what we believe rather than to inform us and potentially change our mind. And that has major impacts in our political systems that we need to work on. It has major impacts on, the usage of social media and the way it's engineered has major impacts on the way our children's brains work. And we need to be aware of that.